Are you new to Genealogist and you want to start successfully climbing your family tree? Fantastic! You're in the right place. In this video, I'm going to show you 5 things that you need to know to be more successful finding your family. Howdy, I'm Devin Noel Lee with Family History Fanatics, where we help you understand your DNA, climb your family tree, and write your ancestor stories along the way. Now, if you are a newbie genealogist, in the comments section below this video, type newbie. If you are a experienced genealogist, say genealogist. That way I'll know who's watching this video. So for you newbie genealogists, I want to take you back in time to when I started doing genealogy. In every beginning genealogist workshop I ever attended, oh so long ago, they always handed me this chart. And they said, fill it out. Start putting facts about yourself and your family on this chart. Yeah, there's a problem with that. I don't know about you, but I don't know all of the facts that go on this chart. I mean, I was a good daughter. I knew the names of my parents and their birth dates and where they were born. I didn't always remember when they were married. And then Grandma Geisler was Grandma Geisler, but that's not really the name I'm supposed to put on the chart. So what is a person to do? And if you are adopted, yeah, this doesn't work. So when you start climbing your family tree, you need to start in a different location. So while I agree that starting with yourself is important, I think you really need to start with your stuff, or the stuff that you have access into your close family members' home. Let me tell you why. Well, first of all, many of us have photos, and if you have a disorganized mess like this, then you need to go visit the description of this video for a link to how to solve this problem. But in your photos are clues to your past, and the sooner you get it organized and labeled and identify the people in them, you're going to save yourself a heap of time climbing your family tree because those photos help you understand relationships. The next thing you want to pay attention to in your stuff is documents. I can't tell you the number of times myself and others have found the answer that they've sought for 10 years to solve a genealogy mystery, only to find it's in the documents, in the letters, in the journals that are in their home. So take time to examine the documents, the letters, the diaries that are in your home or in the home of people around you that you're closely related to. Next, possessions. Yeah, very few genealogists tell you about possessions, but I can't tell you the number of times that I've looked at the possessions that belong to my grandparents and my great-grandparents and found the clues I needed to find more records about them and to bust through some of their brick walls. So possessions, what artifacts are around your home that give you clues to your heritage? Take time to find out the stories about them, and while you're at it, take a picture or two. And finally, people. In genealogy, we've got to talk to people, and we've got to talk to people before they are no longer able to talk to us. So you need to talk to people and not just say, tell me when something happened, the facts. Ask those questions we learned in grammar school. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Because people remember stories, and when they remember stories, then they can also pick up the facts. And when you're a newbie genealogist, go ahead and take a DNA test for yourself and any living relatives that are willing to do so. You don't want to start doing genetic genealogy just yet, but you don't want to miss out on the opportunity to, 1, have someone else do your genealogy for you, and 2, miss out on the genes that you need when you have the skills to do genetic genealogy. Take the test now so that you can use it later when you're ready. Principle number 2. If you have never done genealogy before, the last thing you want to do is look at your pedigree chart, find an empty place in your third great-grandfather generation, and start researching there. The records are challenging or non-existent or in a different language or. So instead, you're going to do that principle of starting with yourself, but you're going to become very familiar with the documents that prove who you say you are, unless you don't want to prove yourself. So you want to explore the documents of your birth, your marriage if you have married. Even if you've married multiple times, it's okay. Get your documents together and look at them. Familiarize yourself with the content that are on these types of records. And then as you begin to explore more about yourself and documenting yourself, you're going to look for census records. If you're old enough to appear in the census records, you're going to look for city directories, telephone books, school directories, church directories. You're going to look at school records, military records, any record you have about yourself. You're going to not only organize them and familiarize yourself with them, you're going to prepare yourself for when you move on to the next generation. You're going to gather and corral records about your parents, their birth, their marriage, their death if they've passed away, and so on. And then you're going to repeat the process and go find census records about them if they're old enough, and city directories and military records, and so on and so forth. That is what we do in genealogy. We find a new person and look for records to establish who they are. Find the clues in there and move back generation by generation by generation. But what happens if you're adopted? Well, you need to build your genealogy muscles. And as I said in this video, how to begin researching if you're adopted, you need to practice on people that you are familiar with. So your adopted line. And if you don't like them, then just pick somebody that you know and do their genealogy for a little bit. The concept is you need to practice building from current to the past with someone that is known, so you can know when you make a wrong turn or a right turn, and then take those skills and apply it to your adopted family tree. Be sure to check the links in the description for more strategies if you're adopted. Now, if you're still struggling to familiarize yourself with records, or the records you have found are not the genealogy records you would expect, then may I suggest you go and learn how to do some indexing. I have a video on how to do that. Be sure to check a link in the description. But when I need to flex my muscles with records, I go do indexing. Now, one of the things that I wish I knew when I was a young genealogist, a newbie genealogist, was how to determine if a record is a good source or not. Not every record is created equal, and lots of errors creep in to the documents. So what is a good source? Typically, and I have to stress typically a good genealogy source is one that is created close to the time an event happens. So a birth certificate would be better than a death certificate to tell you when someone was born. The next part of this statement is it's created close to the time of the event with a witness who can attest or testify to that event taking place. So would a child be able to be a reliable informant to when their parents were born? No, because they weren't alive when their parents were born. But would a mother or a midwife be able to attest to the birth of a child? More than likely. Now, that doesn't mean the records are always foolproof and they don't have errors. Ask anybody who's been adopted or find a non-expected change in their birth and who they were related to. So some records do have outright lies or just mistakes, but use this as a guiding principle to help you understand, is a record reliable or not? So here's an example of a good genealogy source. It is a passenger record. Now, It doesn't give you everything, but it was created at the time that people boarded ships or got off a ship. So it's contemporary to the event of someone immigrating. That's about it. All the other details, their age, their nationality, and those types of information, yeah, that person didn't really attest to those things. They're relying on your ancestor to tell them the truth. So within a document, some information is that first-hand information and some of it is second-hand. So you need to be very careful in how you analyze documents. Now let's look at this. This is a hand-drawn family tree. Is it a good source? Well, you never want to absolutely rule out sources because it could be clues, and hand-drawn trees like this often point me in the direction of records and relationships I hadn't thought of before because I talked to people. However, I wouldn't rely solely on a tree like this until I backed it up with more records, which comes to my next point. One record does not rule them all. You need a collection of information to help you validate your relationships between your ancestors and the dates and places where facts happened in their life. I can't give you all the ins and outs on how to evaluate records, so I want to direct you to other videos we have on this channel. If you want to learn how to evaluate a death record, be sure to check out this video. I even have a video on how to evaluate what we call derived, derived from other people's information. This is Find a Grave, and I have a video that teaches you how to evaluate that as well. All the links to the videos I'm going to talk about in this video are found in the description. The third thing I wish I learned when I was a newbie genealogist that I hope you'll take to heart is that you have to take time to explain yourself. When my brother was a teenager, he had this phrase, prove it. It didn't matter what the topic was, and it typically wasn't genealogy, but if you made a statement, he wanted you to prove it. And that applies to genealogy. So let's say you find this census record, and yeah, I know, it's really hard to read. It actually is just hard to read. It doesn't get better. In any case, let's say you think, that is my great-grandfather, George Geisler, even though the name is really poorly written. And the indexer, the person who made this form searchable by putting information into a database, they didn't even get in close to Geisler. But let's say I believe that this is my ancestor. Well, I have to explain to myself and others why that is. So I'll say things like, even though this record was indexed as Grassless, it's really Geisler because this, and this. You need to leave yourself a note breadcrumb trail because just like Hansel and Gretel needed to follow a breadcrumb trail, hopefully to get back out of the woods, if you leave a more permanent breadcrumb trail than theirs, then when you come and revisit a situation like this, 5 years from now, 5 months from now, or even 5 days from now, you'll remember why you made that decision. So develop the habit of explaining why you think records pertain to your ancestor or your ancestor's family. You will be glad you did. Now, if you want some more training on how to do that, check out this video. Now, the final thing you want to know about genealogy when you're a beginner is that you need to stay organized with your citations. Yeah, go back to English class. Do you remember what your teachers told you to do? Anytime you had a fact taken from something else, you needed to cite your sources. Now in genealogy, people get a little overzealous with their citing the sources, but I'm going to show you as a beginner how to do this. So let's go back to this record. I want to remember that I saw this document and I want to keep track of it in the future. Well, I could spend time crafting a source citation like this, or I could go to Family Search. And since my tree's on Family Search, I can attach the record to George. And now I have a list of all the documents very much like that bibliography in English class, the sources that document George. Over on Ancestry, they do something similar. Right here in the middle is a list of the sources that pertain to George. And what I really like is they show you the facts that they pertain to and any additional individuals to which you attach this one particular source. Some sources actually pertain to multiple people, so it's really cool to visually see how these records are connected. And if you want to invest in a genealogy software program, you're going to have to craft your own citations, but programs like RootsMagic and Family Tree Maker, you know what they do? They give you forms and you just type in the information, kind of like Citation Machine for the MLA and the APA and the Chicago. When you're writing those reports, there's similar forms in RootsMagic Legacy Software and Family Tree Maker that will give you the forms so you can craft your citations and keep the facts together. So be sure that you organize your citations, but don't stress out about them. Now, if you will keep these 5 principles in mind, you will climb your tree faster than if you were back in the days when I began. Take advantage of all the videos that are here on Family History Fanatics YouTube channel. Our latest one is here, and tips on how to become a better genealogist are right here.